All right, so let's just jump right in with our first question. I'm going to start with Nancy. Nancy, what are the strategies you use to establish and maintain a physically and emotionally safe intramural environment?
I'll start off by speaking to the photo that's on the slide. So to start the intramurals season, we begin by really exploring what a safe and inclusive intramurals looks like, sounds like, and feels like. So with the students, we brainstorm, and these are all words from the students in their language. So this is something that will keep up throughout the intramurals program, that we can constantly refer to and add to or change, so that if things are going well, we can highlight the things from our brainstorm. If things are not going so well in our program, we can kind of go back to the beginning of our brainstorm and see what needs adjusting. So that's one piece where we start off. Also, in making a physically and emotionally safe environment, we make sure that there's constant check-ins. So at the start of intramurals, during intramurals, and after intramurals, often they're informal check-ins with thumbs up or thumbs down. How are things going? We have emojis put in our gym, whereas students walk in at the end of the day, because our intramurals at the moment takes place after school. So an emoji such as this and different emotions are hung up on the wall, and it's just a quick way for students to high five how they're feeling, and it gives me a sense of what kind of feelings are the students walking in with. Also, informal check-ins throughout the hallways. I make sure that students remember that it's Intramurals Day, and making sure that they'll be attending. And if they're not attending, just checking in with, if everything is okay with them. So we make sure to do those check-ins. One other piece that I'll speak to make that focuses on physically and emotionally safe environment is really starting off the year with building relationships. A lot of students that are coming to the intramural program after school are grade 6, 7s, and 8s. And a lot of them might not have relationships with each other. So we really focus on challenges at the start of the year, inside-outside circles at the start of the intramural session, just to get students to have conversations with one another and get comfortable with one another before we get into the games. Learning each other's names so that we're celebrating each other's names and being comfortable with each other and acknowledging each other and celebrating for each other when we're participating in the different activities.
I love that. Thanks, Nancy. Let's go to Rowan. Rowan, how about you? What are some of the strategies you use?
I think a lot of the best or the better practices are kind of paralleled in lots of what educators do. We talked a lot about, we use kind of like the student-centered language. We co-construct particularly like safety concerns, as well as kind of like look-fors in activities. What are we looking for to have in our variety of different activity spaces? What kind of things would we like to have? What kinds of things do we need for safety? How do we make sure that everybody is included? But it really kind of starts with talking to the students and finding multiple different ways to engage lots of different groups. Often we find some of the groups that get left out of those conversations are people that you don't necessarily see accessing physical activity spaces very often. Those could be with different adaptive needs or different kind of religious or cultural accommodations that don't necessarily lend themselves to feeling the most comfortable in all spaces. So really engaging with our different clubs, like our Best Buddies, which targets a little bit more support for students with disabilities, taking a look at our QSA, so our Queer Straight Alliance, or BSA, Black Student Association, Muslim Student Association, so that we're really kind of hitting programs that are going to be interesting for all of our kind of different demographics within our school. And then using student leadership in our curricular components like the FitRec course or the PLF4M course. There's a lot of control about what intramural activities are offered, and also teaching them using the Ophea safety guidelines, how to interpret them and how to plan with safety in mind for our students. So starting with students, engaging lots of different voices, and then engaging student leaders to make those brainstorming pieces reality.
Nathalie, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say Rowan and Nancy covered most of sort of similarly what we do. In the secondary setting, a lot of the physical concerns that we sort of start with, it's a lot of policing, I find. Students will come in with, for example, Crocs and slides and want to play intramurals, things like that. They're bringing in their lunch and food and causing slipping hazards and so on. So on day one, it's really a sort of we got to work together here. If you guys want to access these programs, which we're so happy to do for you, everyone's got to kind of be on board with making sure their gym stays a safe space. We also have a lot of students that sort of come in to spectate or just want to watch, but then they'll grab a ball and they'll be playing with it on the sidelines and so on. So it's all sort of this policing piece, and I hate to call it that, but we're trying to put the onus back on the students to say this is an opportunity for us to have have fun and work together and all that. And so that leadership piece has to come out of the people who are participating and making sure that when you arrive, you follow the rules and all that kind of thing. With regards to the emotional piece, the only thing I wanted to add was sometimes what I'm finding is students will come and they're talk about this a little bit more, I think, in the challenges part, but the students that are athletes versus non-athletes who want to participate, and students will come with friends, some people will come solo, and how do we get everybody involved and feeling safe enough to want to participate and to be comfortable participating. And so one of the things that we make sure that we do at the beginning is we sort of list everybody up on the whiteboard, and then we make the teams for day one just to see sort of where everybody's at skill-wise and so on. And then later on, if we move into sort of a tournament format, which we do at our school sometimes, we'll then ask them if they have requests, but we want to make sure that everyone's being included and everyone sort of has a space to have this physical fun in, despite the fact that they may not be as, physically talented as others. So that's our piece.
Great, thanks. Rowan, have anything to add, it looks like?
Yeah, I just wanted to raise my hand in terms of just like the language of policing. I understand kind of the concept that you're addressing, but I don't like the term policing. I kind of think of as like kind of co-regulating or kind of keeping kids accountable. And that would be the language that I think would kind of fit better in there just based on the other things that you would describe. So I wanted to offer that for you, because sometimes language is the piece that is kind of hard to convey, like this is what our intention is. But your goal, or what I understand your goal to be, is to keep the activity spaces safe with appropriate footwear, which is always one of the big things that are on the checklist, and taking a look at, if you are going to be a spectator, if you're going to be there for your friends, where you're going to be so you don't get stepped on, trip on bags, things like that. So it's kind of like those accountability and making sure that everybody's on the same page with those things. So I just wanted to say, I agree with that. It's a challenge that we have in our spaces as well, especially because we are trying to target lots of students. Lots of students come, but then where do we put all of our students and how to keep them all safe? But that language piece of the co-regulation or the accountability, I wanted to offer as a synonym or as an alternate for policing, because I think you're right. There's a bit of a negative connotation, which is not what I understood your goal to be, and it's not how I construed what your intramural programs were.
Yeah, no, definitely. We definitely want the leadership in the positive modeling of the behavior to come from the students. So I think it's a matter of on that first day where we agree upon some sort of important regulations, and then from then on it's sort of they model the behavior hopefully so that we don't have to be involved. Yeah, and one of the things we've noticed quite a bit actually. Volleyball is a big sport at our school, and people are bringing phones, obviously, and they're watching volleyball with their head down. And so there's very few spaces within the gym where, you can be safe that way. So just something to throw out there eventually when we talk about challenges is how do we deal with that electronic use in spaces where balls are going up in the air and everything like that. So, thank you, Rowan.
All right, thanks to both of you. Dave, anything to add about this physical and emotional safety piece as far as intramurals go?
Yeah, everything that people have said is really good. I think it makes a little bit of an assumption that you have an ongoing, like an intramural program that started and you're getting lots of kids. I think part of the challenge when we come to the challenges will be just getting kids into the intramural space. And so for me, part of the mindset as a secondary person, it started as soon as those grade 8 tours began, as they're starting to choose my high school. Well, are you going to come to my high school? Look at what we've got for you at lunchtime, especially around the emotional piece of that transition from elementary school to secondary school. They're looking for that safe place. They're looking for that sense of belonging. And they're looking to be able to continue to spend time with their friends that they may not have when they see their timetable roll out at a new school. So that's part of it. It starts with those. And then in the first few weeks, it's very unstructured. It's a minute to win it challenges in the hall outside the phys ed office. It is a lot of drop-in open gym sort of mindset. And that takes me to the whole concept of OPAS. If you go the tools and resources, it will give you special rules and instructions for drop-in self-directed physical activity and safety standards, intramural special rules and instructions as a nice framework. They can be posted. Everybody knows. It helps them understand why the footwear is an issue, and what to do with phones and backpacks are always going to be a challenge. Kids are going to always bring those to the gym and just want to put them off to the side. And frankly, I don't have a problem with that as long as they understand that I'm not going to be responsible for it. If it gets damaged, that's on you, as long as it goes off to the side, or you could leave it in your locker and come back the next day and whatever it happens to be. A couple of other things. For a long time, I've made the connection between physical literacy, teaching games for understanding, intramurals, and mental health. So if I can get kids into my facility space using activities that they are comfortable with and know about from the experiences they have in their health and phys ed classes, it's helping them develop some physical literacy skills. It's supporting their mental health because it's got a safe place to be. And you will find that as long as they perceive it that way, you're going to get more and more kids coming, and that helps address the emotional safety. And then finally, one of the big things that we've been talking about on the safety team is the types of activities that we incorporate into our intramural program. If they're not perceived as being safe, or they're perceived as in such a way that I don't feel emotionally safe, then they're not going to come. And so it's not just a matter of selecting a game that we as the educator want. It is selecting a game, having that critical eye, looking at it from the standpoint, is it going to attract kids, or is it going to scare kids away because they're not feeling emotionally safe? And to somebody's point about the catering to all your students, that's the key. It can't just be targeted at the kids that are playing in your intramural or your inter-school volleyball team or your inter-school basketball team. It has to be conducive to getting those kids from the demographics that don't typically play on those teams or are looking for that safe place to be. And I think that those are really overriding principles.